So I want to talk about pattern, and not the technical aspect of pattern, because I couldn't really maybe tell you all of the technical aspects of pattern, but to me it is like a lifestyle. And I feel like I'm getting like weepy already, not just because I'm nervous, but because I like really truly love it. Like it's graphic design, it's pattern design, it's block printing, it's murals, it's taking pictures of tiles, it's going to India and learning about this art that they're hand carved blocks, hand printed. I mean, beautiful. Like each print is unique, even though each print is the same as a graphic. As you start printing it, you notice that each piece becomes its own, it has its own charm because a little bit of the ink is missing or whatever. So I come back from India in 2017, and a month later, I got laid off. And it was like, yes, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, this has been my whole life, like, waiting here. And then I created Bonanza. And my logo is a bee being caught by a lasso, and the bee represents, like, the idea, the fleeting idea that you're catching. So here I am, I create Bonanza. I don't know really what I'm doing because I'm actually a designer. So I keep designing patterns. The universe, I met a guy, through a friend, I met someone in India who said, send me, what do you want to do? What do you want to print? What do you want to make? And I was like, oh my God, what is this? Like pinching myself. So I sent art. I just started creating patterns and designing and designing and designing. And this is awesome. My husband actually does drone photography, and this was in Iceland. And one of my kids and I like threw it up. But it's cool to see a pattern that can be so small. It's like a 6 by 6 inch piece of wood. And then as you add to it and you repeat it, it becomes so much bigger than itself. It is really inspiring, and I like still get giddy when I do it. Like I start printing and I'm like, oh, I don't have time. So speaking of like I'm like, okay, so print pattern, I love it. I don't paint murals, but I had Thanksgiving break and I had gray paint. So I painted our bedroom wall, and then Chad walked in the kitchen and was wearing that shirt, and I'm like, holy shit. It's the same thickness. I'm like, go stand in front of the wall, taking your picture. So then I was like, all right, maybe I can do murals. And a friend at Foam asked me if I wanted to be part of their Time Kills Art show last March. And this is kind of how I like to think that block printing is sort of like a meld between craft and art and design. It's like, and this was my art take on it. It was like, all right, you can't use a wood block to print on the wall, so what are you gonna do? So I went to Lowe's and I was like touching all the surfaces. And all the people at Lowe's were like, what is, I'm like, don't mind me, I'm just rubbing the carpets. But I found this material that I could cut and mount and print, and it was like squishy enough that it would adhere to the wall. So now I'm like, oh, I like created giant block printing. Like, and so that is also, I have been, I like can't stop. I'm like, does anybody want a block printed mural? Please. So I worked with Foam and I did a line of block printed beers. And they were like, would you ever come and do like a how-to here? And I was like, well, maybe we can do a workshop. So last May, I held a workshop at Foam, which was a total blast. The reason I love workshops is because like here I have these blocks that I've created with a certain pattern in mind. And I bring them and people create something totally different. Like that's why pattern is so phenomenal, and block printing specifically, because you can have a super simple triangle, or like these I did today with like a half circle, and you give it to someone who has a different idea and it becomes something totally different, totally new. It's really inspiring. Like sometimes it's hard as an artist to be like, all right, I'm really into this thing and I'm gonna share it with 45 people. But afterwards I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy I did, because I learned something. Like they learned something, but I learned something. Okay, I'm off course. So I started printing vintage clothes, which I loved the idea of, because it's like something secondhand, something you're repurposing. And I did the maker skirts for Art Hop, which is fabulous, the Tova Oleander. And this was my newest print that I did, which I call Paper Dolls, in honor of my grandma, because I started as a graphic design. Here it is, super simple. The face shape is the same, and I'm gonna layer on top a different, unique hair, shirt, and that is like totally infinite. I mean, I feel like I could keep creating and creating those women forever. I'm like, I do not plan to stop anytime soon. There is like an infinite amount of reinventing and recreating that can happen and will happen. And thank you.